a notepad just to remind ourselves our discussion about VPN. So last class we discussed what VPN is all about. So this is a way to, so why we need VPN is to be able to have privacy online. So VPN is virtual private network. So in terms of VPN, it creates a virtual private network by creating a tunnel that will give you privacy online. So that is the relevance of having what? VPN. And then we spoke about types of VPN, which I'm sure you all remember. And the types of VPN, we said that we have site-to-site VPN. And then we spoke about technology that we use for site-to-site. Or before even we go to site-to-site, it means that how will you connect a branch office to another LAN, which will be your data center. Or when do we use site-to-site? You can also have your data center connecting to a business partner, which in this way is going to be like, let's say, B2B or business to business. So the business partner could be your vendor, could be your customer, it could be anything in terms of your business relevant. This is the situation where you need site-to-site VPN. Under the site-to-site, the way to encrypt the tunnel is to use IPsec. So we spoke about that this is the way to encrypt the tunnel. In terms of VPN, you can get your VPN secured either by IPsec technology or by SSL technology. So that one we understand. These are the protocol you need in order to encrypt your packet or get your tunnel secured. And for that reason, we have site-to-site, which we did with the Cisco routers. Today we are going to do with the ASA. And then even with this one, we said that this IPsec is what we call policy-based VPN. Policy-based VPN. I'm sure you remember that. And I said that this is used for what? Unicast network. In the situation of multicast, it's still going to be site-to-site. But the method you are going to use to create your tunnel is going to be GRE for multicast. And then you can add GRE with what? IPsec to make it the tunnel secured. So this, you can run this technology also. And this is normally for what? Multicast environment. So I'm sure we all remember this. Then also we spoke about remote VPN, remote access VPN. Remote access VPN, I told you that we have two methods, okay? We have the client's VPN and we have the clientless VPN. Just a recap to remember. Now the client VPN means that you need to install the protocol you want to secure the tunnel with. And that could be IPsec. So we have clientless, which is IPsec, or you can have a clientless VPN, which is using SSL as the technology. And when it comes to
Bro, you're talking of clients by yourself.
I'm changing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then let me recap it again. So client VPN should be IPsec or SSL. So you can have client VPN, which is using IPsec as a technology for encryption, or using SSL as a technology for encryption. Then you can have a clientless, which means that you don't install anything on the device. So here you have to install it on the device. It has to be a corporate laptop. It's not your bring your own device. This can be your bring your own device that you can use. So it can be your iPad, it can be your personal laptop, and still be able to have access to corporate network. And this one means that you are going to create a portal to do that. And this one, you also use SSL. You don't use IPsec for client list. So this is a good information to have in terms of getting the general understanding about VPN. And the good thing is you know how to do site to site with Cisco device. We also know how to do GRE with Cisco device. And today I'm going to show you how to deal with what? ASA. And then we go through the basic stuff that you are supposed to know about ASA as a device and ASA in terms of management aspect of it, whilst dealing with what? The VPN. So as we know already, when it comes to site, the reason why you need that is you have two separate networks in different locations. That brings the concept of site to site. And then that link is using a public network. So that brings the reason for what? The VPN. And then you want to make sure that that tunnel is encrypted. And then you pick the technology, which in this context, we are going to use the IPsec. Now, to do that, you need to create two phases, which I'm sure you know already. So you need to have configuration for phase 1. And the main purpose for this is to have the two ASA to exchange secret keys, to be able to authenticate each other and negotiate based on the policy that you set, which we all already know as what? Hagel, hashing, encryption, authentication, lifetime, and group policy number that we are going to use. So these are very key for you to understand. So that is what I mean by phase 1. And phase 2 is where before phase 2 comes in, phase 1 should be established. Then phase 2 starts. And when it starts, it's also going to use the IPsec parameters that you set. So what IPsec parameters are you going to use and how it negotiates with each other is the reason for the tunnel to come up. So this is a simple topology we are going to use. And as I said already, you are not going to be able to practice along, but you don't need to practice along because it's a very simple process. And it's also very helpful for you to use it when you are working. You know the configuration aspect, which is more difficult than what we are going to do. But I'm going to help you in a situation where you are working as a network engineer. They have their Cisco ASA already there. And they ask you to create a VPN tunnel either to a remote location or to another firewall device. How are you going to handle that? So we can say that, let's say this is a remote office. You want to connect it to another firewall at the data center, or maybe another remote site, or whatever the case may be, or maybe to a client, a vendor, whatever the case may be. What are you going to go about that? And how will you configure that? So I'll bring my topology, and then I'll go through with you in terms of how we are going to configure this. So I'm going to do the initial configuration of the ASA so that you all get to know how to configure ASA. So let's deal with ASA 1, which is for site 1. So what are the initial configuration? For ASA is similar to Cisco command line. You are going to manage the ASA either with the command line using PADI or secure CRT, or you can manage it with a GUI interface using what we call ASDM. Now, before we go through any of this method, we are going to apply the initial configuration using the command line. Then you will know that this is something that allows you to manage, or this is the way you can configure certain things. But let me repeat, this training cannot let you be a go-to person when it comes to firewall. So in your interview session, don't communicate like somebody who is knowledgeable when it comes to firewall. Just tell them what you know in terms about the firewall, which is what I've said already, and that will support you to be very to be able to handle jobs that require basic firewall responsibility. So enable is the command we use when we are in the user mode, which we know from the routing and switching training. And then with Cisco ASA, it's going to prompt with a password. When you hit enter, the password is empty. Just hit enter and it gives you access to this. And then you go to conft to be able to so you go to conft to be able to go to configuration mode, as you know already with the training we've had so far concerning routing and switching. So over here is the session where you do your initial configuration. So we can do our host name just the same way we do under iOS, which is for routers and switches. So we are going to name this as Site 1 Firewall. So this is that. And that what you can do if this is real device, I'm showing you just for knowledge purpose. It means that you can have your ASA connecting to your PC. All this is bridging us to our PC. So that is what we are going to use this interface for. Then you make sure you have common communication to this. And once you can ping each other, you enable HTTP and all those things. Yeah.
Did you say it's connecting to the PC?
So I've done, yes, I've done it, yes, it's PC. I've done it in a way that all this connection here give me capability to be able to connect to the lab that I'm using. So this PC is to be able to have access to this PC. So that connection you have here is the purpose in order to make the training useful. So all this connection is just a bridge to the lab PC. So everything we are going to configure here is for management purpose. Then this is the actual topology or the diagram that we are using. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what it means is if this were to be a real life and you have your ASA, you are going to connect it to your PC using one of the interface, and then you make sure you assign IP that can talk to this PC. Once they can talk to this PC, then you enable HTTP to be able to use your ASDM for management. And then the rest you can configure them either command line or you configure them with ASDM. So what I'm going to do is, for this first concept, I'm going to configure most of them with command line. And this second one, I'll configure most of them with ASDM so that you get a benefit on how the tool looks like. Okay, so let me bring the first one, which is this one. And then what am I going to do? I'm creating my interface for management. So my interface for management is G01. Okay, so this is going to my management network or my management PC. And then over here, I'm going to do a name if, which is what you use to differentiate your security zones. So the name if is not a description to the link, how the cable is connected. If I want to do description, I can do this to management network. So that is just a description to the link. Now the name if is to create your security zone. So name if, then I'm going to say that this is going to be for management. So the firewall will say that if this is a management, then your security zone should be 0. As you can see over here, it creates it for you. But because we are using it for management, we will say that no, we don't want it to be 0. Let's give something more than zeros, but not up to the internal network. So we use this one. Then the IP address I'm going to use for management of this ASA, I'm going to use 255.1.201, which is the IP address I'm using for my PC so that I can communicate to the PC. So this together with 255.255.0, then I do my node shut. So this is my first configuration for interface G01. Then I can create another interface which is G03. and this is going to be for outside network. So I can say link description, link to internet. So this is connecting with the modem or whatever the case may be. And then in that situation, we are going to say that name if outside. And outside, it will automatically give you a security zone of 0 or security level of 0. So yes, this is what we want. So we can confirm that we want our security level on this interface to be outside. It should be an interface that you cannot accept any packet coming from here unless I permit you or the administrator permits you to do so. So that is also there. And then based on this, our IP address we are going to use is .100.100. Let's use the one here. We use .5 on the other side, .2 on the other side. Then we have no shard. So you can see that it's similar to Cisco. So this is also done. And then I'm going to create my internal one. And this one, we are not going to use any VLAN, so we will not create any VLAN. So we are going to assign the IP on the physical interface. So we have it to be G02. And this one, we say that this link connect to my LAN. And then we create the security level for this. So name if is going to be inside. And the moment you type inside, it gives you a setting of what? 100. So we say that yes, this is what we need. This should be our trusted interface. So our security interface is going to be what? 100. And then now we assign our IP address, and we are going to have it to be 10.10.11.1, 255.255.255.0. Then I have it to be no shard. So let me make this one bigger. And now, how do you verify your interface if it's good? In the Cisco or with the firewall, ASA firewall, you don't need to add do when you are verifying something. You just have to type what you want to type. So all your show command can be typed without you having any issues. So you just do show, and in this situation, you are going to have show interface, not IP. So that is the difference between the iOS and the firewall operating system. iOS will say show IP interface brief. With this, you do show interface IP brief, and then that will give you all your interface. So all our interface is up, and that is what we need. You can also do verification like this just for the purpose of seeing your subnet mask. So this, in terms of firewall, gives you this benefit. In fact, when you do firewall, you love network more because the verification is more useful. You remember that in iOS, you hardly have to see this without going through a show run interface of specific. But this one, it gives you your name, if it gives you the IP, it gives you the subnet mask. This is really nice if you know what you are doing. So now we can also do show name if, and this one will also give you the management and the security level associated with it, or the name of the interface and the security level associated with it. So now we are done with the basic IP address in terms of defining our security levels. So now this is what we are going to use for management. If we are to log on with Telnet, SSH, of course Telnet, you will not do that. Or you want to log on with the GUI interface, which we are going to deal with that. Now to enable the GUI interface, it means that you have to enable that protocol on the ASA. So to enable that protocol on the ASA, you say HTTP server enable. So this will allow you to be able to browse your interface and enable it and all that. And then what network do you want to manage it with this? So this is going to be 00, and then you say management. And then after this, you also give the password that you are going to use for this management. So we say that the username for this device is going to be admin. So this will be our local password. and then the password we are going to use Cisco, and then we set a privilege level of highest, which is 15. That makes it more secure password to use. So this is what we've done. What it means is that you can now browse this IP address, which is going to be 10.255.1.201, and when you browse it, it's going to allow you to be able to install what we use for management, to be able to install the ASDM, okay, which is Adaptive Security Device Management Software. Now you have to install this. So you click on this, you click on this to install. It's a Java 2, and then when you install it, you are going to have this as your interface. I've done it on this lab. So all you'll be doing to manage your ASA firewall is to open your ASDM launcher, and then you have this, but you need to install the Java version before you launch it. Then the management IP address we had was .1, so this is the one I have here. And then the rest is what? Cisco, which is my password, and that should be able to open the ASA for you through this. Now, in terms of configuring VPN on ASA, this is the interface we use to configure, and you see that it's very, very simple. After we are done with the initial setup and we are doing the VPN, you are going to see that this is really, really what? Cool when you are managing firewall. This is the more reason why I've said it before, but I don't know if you remember that the higher you go, what happens, Obi? The higher you upgrade your skill set, what happens?
The lesser work you do.
The lesser work. Oh, is it you? What do you normally say? You said you want what? You love what? Easy what?
Easy life.
Easy life. Easy life. Easy life means that you have to be more. You have to add more value to yourself, and then you enjoy easy life. But if you don't add value to yourself, that easy life will be corruption. You can't have proper easy life. You have to cut corners. So that is what we want to avoid. And when you are done with firewall training, you see itself that one, you are paid well, you do less. It's very simple, and it's a comfortable process in the workforce. So yes, network is a good thing, and that is your door to get into the IT world. But whilst you are there, don't stay there. Try to become a subject matter expert, okay? That is where you matter most to the organization. So this is taking a while. So whilst we are waiting for this, seems like okay, so now we have our ASA GUI interface. This is how you are going to manage it. You can see everything I've configured from when you come to the home session. These are the interface that we've configured, and on the second one I'm going to show you how to configure this interface. So what I'm going to do on ASA 2 is I'm just going to do the management so that we will get this software open. Then I'll show you how to add another interface using the GUI interface or ASDM session, which is this one, and not the command line. So I'm going to use the command line to do the initial setup, which gives you the management access of this, and the rest of the configuration I'm going to use ASDM to do that. So now let me bring this one here, and then we have this one already open, so I'm going to minimize it, and let me bring our lab here to be sure. So now we don't need this, so I've closed it just for you to get an idea of how it came about. And then now you come here, which is our ASA 2, and what are we going to do? This, we go to this, we go to configuration mode, and then we go to interface, and this interface we are going to have it to be G0. Let me be sure. For management, I'm just configuring the management, which is G01. Okay, and then over here we are saying that this is a link. This is a link to management network, which is to my PC as well. And then we are going to name this interface as management. And then it gives me a default security level of 0, but for management purpose, I need something higher than outside interface. And then we assign our IP address. So this one, I'm going to use 255.1.202. So this will be my other management IP address for ASA2. So this is going to be 255.0. So I have this also configured, and then I can do no shut on this side. Okay, so once I do no shut, I have to enable the HTTP so that I can use the ASDM. So we say enable, and then what network do you want to use for this management? I want every network which is for management, so I use default, which is like 0.0.0. You can, with ASA, you can just represent the 4-octet 0 as single 0, and that is very good. And what user account do you want to have here? So the username is going to be admin, and the password is going to be Cisco, and I'm giving it the highest privilege level to be able to be more secured and do everything I want it to do. So now I'm done with the management alone. I'm not going to do the other security zones when it comes to the inside, when it comes to the outside. We are going to use the ASDM to learn how to do that as well, so that you get fair idea in terms of how this whole thing is. So now we come here, then I log on to that device as well. And this one, I'm using a management of .2. And you can see that once, why am I sure I can be able to do that? Because I'll be able to ping this PC IP. The PC IP is 10.255.1.51. That is the IP address I've assigned for this device. So now I have communication between the firewall and this one. So if I do IP config, you can see that I have this to be 51, which is what I'm pinging. So once there is communication between the ASA and the firewall, it means that you can browse it. You can use anything to browse to install your launcher, ASDM launcher, and then you can also manage the device using this device. If you are not able to ping, you can't do that. So assume that this is out of box. You connect it to your network card on your PC. You assign yourself a static IP here. Then what IP you give to the firewall, which is what I've done, then you should make sure that they are on the same network to be able to ping each other. And that is exactly what I've done now. So now we should be able to manage it using ASDM, because what have I done in addition? In addition, for this to work, I've enabled HTTP to be able to work. It's HTTP rather. I've enabled these services. I've also allowed every network on my management, which is including the IP address of my PC. I've also created an account that I want to use for an ASDM. So without this 3 configuration, don't access this because it will not work. You need that 3 configuration before you can access this for it to work. So now that being said, I have this to be Cisco, and now I can go here to also have access to my ASDM. So now I have the 2 ASDM to be open. So let's wait for that one to come up. And seen. Okay, so now it's up. Okay, so Yvonne, you have a question?
Yes, Prof. My question is that security level 17, where do you get that figure from? The number.
So if you remember
Because I saw the 0.
yeah. So if you remember what I spoke about in the introduction, the security levels is 0 up to 100. Now the higher the number, the secure the interface. So when you create any interface apart from inside, it's going to give you a default of 0. So if it's inside, it gives you a default of 100. So if I create another inside like DMZ network as interface, guest as interface, or this one we are saying management, it will give you a default of 0, either out or in. So the firewall will only have security zones of outside and inside. But I don't want it to be outside. I want it to be something else, which means that I want it to be management. And if you want it to be management, you can't have it to be 0. Then it's going to be vulnerable. So you have to give something that will be higher than the outside interface. And that number is between 0 to 100. You can choose any number. You can choose 1, you can choose 2, you can choose 3, you can choose whatever. But it should not exceed 99, because you want your inside to be higher than any other interface you configure. And I'm choosing 70 for that purpose. Does that make sense?
Yes, so this number is chosen by you as the network engineer, right? But
No.
not the company, or the company can give you the number that you are supposed to be using.
No, it's chosen by you as a firewall engineer. This is a role for firewall. So I want you to understand.
Okay.
That is why I want you to be, I gave you the story to use in your interview as a network engineer with basic understanding of firewall. Yes,
Firewall.
but we have a separate team for firewall management. But if this job require me to do firewall stuff, I'll be fine if to bring myself to speed. Even that day when you get a job, if you've not started the training, you can tell me, Prof, I've gotten firewall job. They want me to do more stuff. So I'm ready to start the class. Then we start the role. But what it means is they are going to have patience for you when you get a job. They are going to, you can get somebody who can shadow you. You can get somebody who can support you. But if you go and make somebody who knows it all, then from day one, you have to produce that result. And that is what I want you to avoid, because you don't need that. With the pay rate that they are giving to you, they have to pay you more if they want you to do firewall. Okay. So,
Thank you.
Sure. So when you look at this interface now, you can see that the only thing we have is the management. We don't have the inside and we don't have the outside. So how do we configure the inside and outside? So what you do is you go to configuration, and under the configuration we have the device. Even you can do the device host name. We didn't configure that one. So let's do, this is site 2 and is firewall, site 2 firewall. And if you want to give enable secret, this is the option. You want to give enable secret, we are not going to do that. And then if you want to synchronize the interface for your log to be okay, this is where you go. If you want to configure routing, this is the session you go. But right now we are for interface. So we click on interface and we click on this one. And what I've done is asking me to apply. So I will say yes, apply. So now it will apply that interface, the hostname configuration that I've done. Then now I'll come here. So this one, let's look at the topology. We have G03 to be outside. So now we are going to focus on G03 for the outside. So you double click on this one. You have G0, okay, we want it to be G03. So let me bring this one. So G03 is the interface. What name do you want to give to this? We want it to be outside to create our security zone. Outside, we want it to be 0. This will do no shard for you. It will enable the interface. And then you assign your IP address to be 102.100.100.2. And then the subnet max, we are using slide 24. So you choose this one. Your description, this is a link to the internet. And then you say okay. So you see that the GUI interface is fun, or you don't like it. Then within short time we are done. Then you come to the inside network. So the inside network is also port G02. So you are going to have this one also to be inside. and then you are going to have it to be security zone of 100, and then we have this to be this, and then we also have the IP address to be 10.10.12. This side is going to be .1, and then we have this to be /24, so we have it like this, and then we say link to so we have link to this one to LAN. Okay, so we have it okay as well. Now doing okay, which is one of the common mistake engineers do, doesn't mean the configuration has taken effect unless you apply it. So if you come to ASA on the command prompt, this Site 2. So if you come to Site 2 and I make it bigger and I do show interface IP brief, you see that what we've configured is not available. It's not available because you've not applied. Most of engineers make this mistake. Oh, the change is not working. The change is not working. And then you come here and you see that you've not applied the interface. So now that we've applied it, when you come here and you verify, you can see that all your interface are available now. So right now, we've done the initial setup for the ASA. Okay, so what have we done? We've done all the IP setting. We've created the network for management, for outside, for the inside, and as well. I've also pre-configured this device, so you don't need to pre-configure. We are not going to configure that one, but we use it for testing purpose. So what it means is that this ASA should be able to ping this and should be able to ping this as well. Okay, so if you go to ASA1 on the command line and you also do ping, this is .1, so let me ping my other interface, which is 100.100.2. so it's pinging, which is my ASA2, and then let me also ping my local network. So my local network is also 10.10.11.2 on this side, and it's also reachable. You can also do a ping command with this. How do you do a ping command with this? You can come here, go to ping, so you go to tools. So as you see over here, you go to tools, and then you choose the ping command. Then whatever you want to ping, you put that host here. So if I want to ping the PC on this side, I can do 10.10.12.2, and then you say ping, and then you are going to get a response here. If I want to ping ASA1, which is 102.100.100.1, you also do this, and you see that you are able to ping that. So you can use the ASDM to do everything, practically everything. And then you can use the command line to also do same, as long as you understand how to use those features. And somebody with your experience level, you need to know this to be able to ping from the firewall through the ASDM and also through the command line as well. Now we have to configure the routes. So if you all know, with the concept of creating VPN, we should establish communication on how the packets should come here, because they are not at one geographical location. This is one LAN and this is another LAN. So you need a routing protocol over here. And then ACL will be the defined traffic that is going to use what? VPN. So before we do our VPN, because the VPN is where we create our crypto ACL. But before we do that, we have to make sure that we have a routing policy from here to here, and we have another routing policy from here to here for our local users. So all this is something that you have to also be aware of in terms of VPN as well. So how do we configure routes in ASA? If it's Cisco, we are going to say IP routes. But over here, it will be invalid. So here we say route. Route will come first, and then the interface you want the packet to exit will be your next one. So route to the outside. And the good thing about this is you can do 0.0.0, or you just represent it. You can do this, or you just represent all of this as 1 0 and another 0 for the 2 section. And then you are going to say that your next hop, which if this is .1, our next hop is going to be this IP. So this is our next hop IP. So we configure this one here, and we can configure the same on the other side by changing just the hop. So you come here and you configure it and just change the hop to be what? .1. So now we have our routing configured. So it's showing me to refresh because I was on the command line. So let's do the refresh also here. And then what if you also want to configure the route here? It's very simple. You can come to static route. You see that it's already done here, but this is the way you would have configured it. You choose outside. You want any network to communicate to the next exit, which is your next hop. Then that becomes your IP address. Then you say okay. So this is the session we create. All our routing, you can do OSPF, you can do EIGRP, you can do BGP, you can do all those configuration over here. So that being said, now we are good to go. But one thing I want you to know about ASA, by default ping is disabled. You cannot ping across. So even when we test our packet, it will not ping across, and we don't need ping when it comes to VPN at this point. So if I'm on PC1 and I want to ping the other device, which in this scenario is going to be 10.10.11.2, no, 12.2. This is 11, so 12.2. It's not going to, is it working? Do I have that command enabled? Okay, let me be sure of. It's supposed not to work unless I have my VPN still there. So this is user 2 and this is user 1. Let me be sure of the users. So user 1 is this. Okay, so let me close this and be sure that is what to open. So ping 10.10.11.12.2, which happens to be the IP address for this device. So this device I've assigned 12.2. So that is the one I'm pinging. Yes, it should not ping that IP. So now it's not pinging because we've not done VPN. So it's okay. If it's Cisco router, it will ping, but with firewall by default, it will disable ping. If you want to enable ping, I'll show you, but we are not going to do it. What it means is you go to configuration, you go to firewall policy, and you go to service policy rules, and under the service policy rules you click on this, and then you allow ICMP, you allow these 2 sessions. The moment you take it, then it will ping, but we don't need that one for the VPN. So this is just a way to know, so you can still go through it when you are watching video. That is why I said this is a video that I want you to watch, to play over it over and over for you to get the understanding well. So now we've done our routing. How do you configure the VPN? Very simple. So if I'm on ASA1, so this is my ASA1, I'll go to configuration, or I can use a wizard. So the wizard makes it more simpler. So under the wizard, you have VPN wizard. Then you go to site-to-site VPN. Then you go to next, and then next you specify your peer IP. So if you are creating a VPN with a partner where you don't know the IP address, you have to be aware of the IP. They need to give you that IP information, and that will be their public interface. So in our situation, our public interface is .100. What? Who can tell me? What? Let me see if I'm not the only one doing the class. Dot what?
Well, is it on site 1? Site 2?
Yeah, this is site 1. So my peer will be dot what?
Your peer is going to be dot 2.
And dot 2 is an IP
Yes.
address on which device?
On the site 2
Very good,
G0.
very good, very good. That is what I want to hear. So this is your room, your peer device. Where you want to connect to is what you have here. Then you go to next, and then this is where you define the traffic to be used for the VPN. What traffic do you want the VPN to be encrypted? Okay. Now my local network, I want everything in my local network, which is this one. I want everybody from 10.10.11 to be able to go to my peer and be able to communicate on my peer side. This is the local network, which will be the IP address for user 2, as you are seeing over here. So that is my peer network. So I want the remote network to be 10.10.12.0/24. So what it means is anybody from this network and going to this network is safe. Anybody outside this network is not safe. You might be able to have access to the internet if you have cable modem, but your traffic is online. Hackers can be able to access it. So this is where you define which network should be used for the VPN. And then you go to the next one. You choose pre-share key. So pre-share key, we are going to use Cisco. And then if you finish this one, and this one you come to, this is very, very important. So because we've not done the firewall in details, but let me use, but we've done NATs, so you know NATs. So let me explain this, you get this. Now, in terms of NATs, we say that private IP address cannot communicate to what? Public IP address. Is that correct? Unless you translate it. So this private IP is not routable on the internet. So we need network address translation to be able to do so. Okay? So it means that on the firewall, you need to do NAT. Now, when you do NAT, then you can have access to the internet. But when you are doing VPN, you want to exempt this private network from translating to this public, because they are not going to the internet. Where are they going? They are coming to your private network at this location. So what do they need NAT for? Do you guys get the point I'm making? And one thing about VPN, the whole idea about VPN is I want to virtually get a private network at my location. So I want this one to be seen. I want this device to act like it's here through VPN. So we call it virtual private network. And if they are here and they are all LAN, why do I need NAT? So that is the reason why in your configuration you have to exempt what? NAT in your rules. So that is what I'm doing. So I will exempt this. And then you are done. So you see, very simple, just step by step. So you see that firewall is becoming, it's more simpler compared to network. But if you don't know network, you can't do this. Now, it gives you the summary of the configuration. Remember, we are saying that in terms of VPN, we have phase 1 and phase 2. If you look at what I've done so far, what information did I use? Most often is the pre-share key. I remember in the early stage when you guys are privileged, you have the process of me teaching you firewall in real times. For them, I didn't have firewall lab. So I give them the story of saying that you have a template you follow, and all you do is to share the pre-share key with the firewall guys so that they can do their part on the other side. And people were struggling to say just the pre-share key. If you look at what I've done so far, all you needed was the peer IP, the network for just the local and the remote, and the PSK, which is the pre-share key. then you are done. This is the information to create VPN. So if you are communicating for somebody to believe you that you've done VPN before, this is what you do. But some people will go and learn internet stuff, and then when they are bombarded with questions, they don't know how to answer them. So if you say you give them pre-share key, that is the concept. You need a peer IP, you need a network that will use the VPN, and then you need a pre-share key to be able to create your VPN. You can see that in terms of parameters, it has summarized it for you, but it predefine it for you, but you can remove what you don't need. So if you look at this one critically, you can see that this is my peer IP. This is the outside interface which the VPN is going to use to go out. This is the network that is going to enjoy the VPN, so you have it here. And I've enabled IKE version 1 and IKE version 2. I told you that in terms of VPN, we have two types. We have IKE version 1 and IKE version 2. This gives you the benefit of creating all, and you can disable if you want it. I'll go through a bit of details about the difference between, hold on 1 minute.
Sorry.
Hold on 1 minute.
Please, is it possible to increase the font size, because I can't see anything?
Okay, you have to zoom your WebEx. So the WebEx gives you capability to zoom out. So your screen, you can zoom out. So zoom out so that you can see it well. Okay. Okay. So we have IKE version 1 and IKE version 2. So I'm going to explain the difference between the two, and then from there you also get a proper understanding with that. So it has enabled the two, or they are all using pre-share key method, which means that you can use pre-share key or certification method, but we are using pre-share key for this purpose. And then you can see that the phase 2 is also configured in terms of the parameters is going to use, and also you have your phase 1. So these are the IKE version 1 in terms of phase 1 and phase 2. This is IKE version 2 in terms of phase 1 and phase 2. You have also said that the network should not be subjected to what? Translation. So that is what we need. So we just say finish. And your VPN, it gives you what you would have configured. And that is why I don't like teaching command line with VPN. It's not fun. And all this, I'm going to go through it for you to understand. So right now, we have this configured. So we say close. We get the concept of what is going to be configured for us. And then we wait for it to finish. Then we go to phase 2. We do the same thing. Just click, click, click. You are done with your VPN. Very simple exercise. So now I'm done with this side. My policy is created. So you are going to have your network connection profile, which is used for the VPN. It's saying that on this ASA, you are able to connect to a peer with this IP address on the outside interface from your inside network to your remote network. This is the network you are going to communicate with. And then you are using IKE version 1 and version 2. If you don't want version 2, you can just uncheck this one. But I'll later on give you idea of the relevance of having the 2 enabled if necessary. And then you can also exempt the NAT from here. So this is what, if your VPN is not working, you have to come and check and be sure that everything is good. When we are done with this class, I will try and see if I can stage 1 troubleshooting for VPN. But you are going to have short VPN troubleshooting videos, which you are going to follow to troubleshoot when you are working, so that you don't do what? So that you don't do what?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I know you didn't get it.
Okay.
Who got it? Who got it?
So we don't call you.
So that you don't call me. So that you become self-sufficient, guys. You become self-sufficient. You know where to get information from, and then you also fool yourself. So now you are done with this. We also come to this side, and we do the same thing. Come here, go through the wizard. What are you configuring? Site to site. If you want to configure clientless, you use this. If you want to configure client VPN, you use this. In terms of SSL, or tomorrow I'll do one client for you, so that you get a benefit of this and that. You are a lucky class. I don't do with all my network class, so that you get real life scenario for that. So you see, from here you come to site. Very simple. You go to next, and then what is your peer on site 2? Your peer on site 2 is 102.100.100.1. That is our public IP. You choose your outside interface, not any other interface. So we keep it the same. You go to next. What is the local network here? You can see it. You can see all your network on the ASA. Then you choose your local that you want to use for the VPN. So I want this one. And the remote session, if it's a partner, you ask them, what remote connection do you want the VPN to communicate with? So they tell you in this situation is 10.11.0/24, which is the network for ASA1. So now we go to next, and the next thing you need is the pre-share key. Who cannot do this in real life? Creating VPN, you have to own it. And you see, you can either use pre-share key or you can use certificate. If I check this, then I'm going to use certificate, and there are so many methods, but most often we use pre-share key. So we go with the pre-share key for that purpose. Then we go to next, and then we exempt the VPN traffic because we are not going to the internet, so we don't need NAT. So don't translate the IP address that you've given here, which is this one. If I want to communicate from this site to this site, don't translate it. I want the same IP, because I want the other device to see me as the same device on the same premises. So you do this, then you go to next. Then it gives you the summary of everything I spoke about. Just that it gives you a whole lot of policies. If you don't want it, you can copy this on your notepad and delete what you don't need, or I'll show you how to do it on the GUI interface. If there is a predefined policy that you have to use in terms of hashing algorithm and encryption method, we know it already. Diffie-Hellman group policy, or lifetime number you have to use. So you can edit it from here and paste it. But we don't want to edit anything. We are good to go. And I'm going to give you some of the reason why you can keep it the same way without editing. So we finished. So now we are done in terms of site to site, but let me break it down. Anytime you create VPN, it's going to create a tunnel group. If this tunnel group is unchecked on any of the version, your VPN tunnel will not work. So you see, it creates it for us. It gives you your peer, your connection device. You are using ARC version 1 and 2 all together. I'm going to give you the difference between 1 and 2, basic understanding. And then you go to the crypto. This is where it gives you all so you can see over here, this one gives us the transform set policy, the IPsec, whatever method you want to use, you have it all here. And then you come to ARC policy. This is phase 1. So phase 1, you can see over here. Last week we used 3 days, but I told you that the best method is the advanced encryption standard, which is the AES. And if you have 256, the higher the space key, the better, and the lower the priority means the better secured. So you can see that the priority on this is 20, coming to 110. The lower this number, the better. If you want to delete because you don't want all this, you can just delete it here. Now, when I'm dealing with vendors, sometimes I don't delete, so that I negotiate with whichever they have, because sometimes they don't give you the correct information. So I predefine all, or you can just delete all. But what it means is it's going to use the top one, and if that is what you want to have, you keep it there. If that is not what you want to have, you just come here to delete it. Okay, so now we are good to go with that. Our transform set, we also have it also here in terms of IKE phase 1 and IKE phase 2 in terms of the version. No, not IKE phase 1. IKE version 1 and IKE version 2, meaning that the two different types of VPN. The phase 1 and phase 2 is the stages on each of the VPN process, whether IKE version 1 or IKE version 2. Are you all getting the idea of what I'm saying? So now that is applied, we don't have any issue here. And this is also done, we don't have any issue here. So we go to PC1 and let's generate a traffic before we come and test. So 10.10.12.2, which is the other side, is what we want to communicate to. So now we have this traffic. So we have 4 traffic generated now. Let's come here to check. So we do show crypto. Let's check phase 1, Isacam SA. So let's see, we have this to be ready. So the state is good. The row is initiator, which means that the packet came from here, and the other side will be a responder. And then all the parameters is using on phase 1 is here. So this command is for phase 1. This is for phase 1. So you see over here that is using this encryption method, AES, and the key size or the key space is 256. The hashing algorithm is using the SHA. I spoke to you that SHA 510 is the best. Group number, it took the 5, but if the company, the best method should be 14 upwards, but this is what they are using, so we are okay. In terms of verification of authentication, is using what? Pre-share key. So we are good on this. So this is working. So let's check IPsec SA, which is phase 2. Also, we have our encryption working. So 4 packet encrypted, 4 packet decrypted. So you can see that when it comes to doing VPN on ASA as compared to routers, which one do you like? George, which one will be your preferred method?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Hey, am I talking to myself all along? Which one will you like? The Cisco VPN configuration or the firewall VPN?
Just like Cisco will win.
I think the Cisco. I prefer Cisco.
All of them are Cisco. So will you like to do VPN on Cisco router or will you like to do VPN on Cisco firewall?
I like to get used to the firewall.
Okay, which one look more simpler? Which one look more? That is the point I'm making. Okay, yes, of course you need hands-on, but if you are going to do VPN, you can just watch this video. It's just check, or click, and you are done. You come here, you choose the method you want to configure, you choose that one, and you go click. And it's also on your training guide. I'm going to make it, it's available on your training guide. Let me show you. So I'm going to update your training guide for you to be able to use this for your benefit. So what to do each time. So you have this. So it's very easy, even for interview. The first thing is to open your ASDM on the site you want to create a VPN. You normally use the VPN wizard. And this one, if you are doing site to site, you choose the site to site, which is this one. And then you enter your peer IP, which is what you've done here. The next one is to select which traffic is supposed to be encrypted, which you define your local and your remote. And then you define your pre-share key. And then you exempt it from what? NAT. In case somebody asks you in an interview, can you walk me through how you did it on the firewall? Just read this for them. And that is the end of the game. Finish, you are done. Repeat the same process. Verify by generating a traffic, and then on phase 1 this is the verification command, and on phase 2 this is the verification command. And how do you know that your VPN is up? This and that means that your VPN is up. Any questions so far?